Hey everybody, we are doing the live Valentines special here. Just get comfortable. So yeah, join me for a few minutes while we talk about love. We talk about love, astrology, fate and destiny and all that wonderful stuff, because right now is a very transitional time for a lot of people. We have a lot of things going on right now. This month in February, we have 2 eclipses we're dealing with. So we just had one over this weekend. We have another one coming up in 2 weeks. And it's not just for the day. It actually goes on all month, the energies. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about Venus going into retrograde coming March 5th. I believe I wrote it down. I have my ephemeris here. So we have Venus going retrograde. So I have my ephemeris here if any of you are into astrology. An ephemeris is how we look up the dates and everything. So you see right here, right? You can see all of the planets, and you can see like what sign they're in. Sorry about that. I had some connection issues with my phone. Anyways, with an ephemeris, you can see that you can look up the actual, like, when planets are going retrograde, when they're going direct. You can see the signs and everything. So these are the dates over here, and this is like the month, and then it has like all of the planets, and then retrograde and direct. Hi there, Trisha. Thanks for joining. So yeah, this is what I was using today to look up when the next Venus retrograde is, because I knew it was coming up here shortly, and it is on March 5th. So if you're having relationship problems, if you're dealing with some relationship stuff, we're going to talk about that in this video, because that is a very important fated destiny, that kind of stuff that's going on right now. Super important right now. Hi, Carol. You're in Montreal, huh? Thanks for joining. So we're going to talk about love and relationships as like a Valentine's special tonight. And if you have any questions, I will answer some questions here in a little while. So we have a lunar eclipse just happened over the weekend in Leo. And so what that means is, like, it's kind of like a whole thing with yourself, right? It's about your connection with yourself. So, you know, and it'll be affecting you for the rest of the week, because once an eclipse hits, it actually affects you for about 10 days. And the crazy thing about this month is we have this lunar eclipse leading right into a solar eclipse in 2 weeks. So the energies aren't actually going to let up about it. So if you're having a hard time reflecting on, you know, ego issues and stuff, this is a time when it's really going to come to light. If you're not having those issues, then you're fine, right? But this is a time of ego issues, Leo issues, right? That's the ego. And so anybody that's dealing with narcissism, a lack of self-love, lack of self-expression, they're going to have some issues come up with this. And you'll notice over the next week, it'll start hitting people. Now, fate and destiny. Let's talk about that for just a moment here. So I want to talk about fate and destiny. Now, with these eclipses, right, the universe kind of throws things at you with illumination, right? It's like, hey, this needs to change. So, right, it's like a big thing happens. And that's why a lot of people are afraid of eclipses. I used to always say, I'm going to go hide under the bed because an eclipse is coming. And it would, you know, it'd scare me, because I knew that major things happen on an eclipse because of my experiences with them, watching them and going, oh my God, like, yeah, like things out of your control happen, you know, that changes your life destiny and puts you back on your right path. So this month is a big time for that. A lot of changes for people. Now, the good thing is that it's in a fire trine. So it's actually been really good, positive energies for the most part for people. However, like I said, if you're dealing with self-worth issues and stuff, this is a time when that's going to come up. So leading now into, I want to talk about Venus. That's like my big reason for being on here right now is love, right? Love, self-worth, relationships. So Venus is going retrograde on March 5th. And that will last until, let me see, I have it wrote down here. I took my ephemeris and wrote all this. And it's April 16th. So it goes retrograde, and right after we're coming out of the eclipse energies, which actually means, well, will still be in those eclipse energies as the transition happens. So it's kind of funny that all of this happens at once for us right now, right? We're coming out of this purge year of 2016, and now it's like eclipse, eclipse, and now Venus retrograde. Look at your relationships. Jupiter's in Libra, retrograde. So it's like all about relationships, and you can't have a relationship with somebody else unless you have a good relationship with yourself. So that's what was starting with this whole Leo thing, right? Hello, happy early Valentines to you. Thanks for joining. So with Leo, right, that's about, hey, how are you feeling about your connection to yourself, right? It's on the axis of Aquarius and connecting with the collective unconscious. So how are you connecting with yourself? I mean, if we can't trust ourselves and our own inner guidance, we can't trust other people. So this is leading us up to this Venus retrograde. It's kind of like, hey, work on yourself right now, work on your Leo issues, work on your own ego, your own self-worth issues, and now let's go into Venus retrograde right after. Hey Thomas, hello. So Venus retrograde is going to be a time of re-examination of our relationships and of our own self-worth issues. Because think about it, if somebody has self-worth issues, they feel a scarcity of love. And if you feel a scarcity of love within yourself, you're going to drain other people of it. The black hole, right? Yeah, I bet you're having some interesting aspects right now, Thomas, with all that air. Yeah, because we're in Aquarius right now. We have a lot of fire going on, definitely aspecting you. So yeah, Venus is about your time and your energy. So if you're feeling like your time and your energy should be placed somewhere, it's because you're feeling like that's your values. Hey, another person, right? I feel like you're a valuable person to me, so I'm going to put my time and energy into you. I love you, or I love myself. I'm going to put my time and energy into myself. So this stuff really starts coming out during the Venus retrograde on the self-worth issues. And this is a time of re-examination. Evaluating and reevaluating ourself and also our relationships, and especially with Jupiter right now in Libra, this is going to be huge, right? Right now we're dealing with self, but once we get into March and April, watch out, big life changes for sure, especially regarding relationships. A lot of people get scared of Venus retrograde because they're like, well, a lot of people get divorced, or they break up during Venus retrograde. Well, people actually heal and take their relationships to another level and get engaged and get married and stuff too in Venus retrograde. Because Venus retrograde is about re-examination of the balance, because it's Libra energy. It's Libra and Taurus. So Libra energy is about balancing relationships. So if it's an imbalanced relationship, then you're going to re-examine it, right? Hi there. So if you're re-examining your relationships, then it's gonna, let's say that you are not giving enough in your relationship. Sometimes that happens where you don't give enough, right? You are more of, the person getting the help and stuff. And all of a sudden, the relationship will get better because that person will be re-examining during Venus retrograde. Hey, you know what? Maybe, I really do love this person. Maybe I need to put more time and energy into this. They become more appreciative if they actually do love that person, because love becomes more clear during Venus retrograde, because the re-examining and the thinking about it and everything starts coming up. And so if you're really thinking about your relationship and you're really examining the balance of it, which is Venus, the balance of Libra, then you're going to realize, hey, this needs to come up or this needs to come down. And that's why people get divorced too and break up. Because what happens is, if you're given too much and you're given, and you're not getting anything back, this is going to be time that you disintegrate it. You go, you know what? Venus retrograde will disintegrate. This isn't for me. I'm not getting enough out of this. There's no balance here, and this other person is resisting the balance. And if that other person, sorry, cat, she loves to lay on my notebooks and stuff. She's funny. I want to touch your notebooks. So yeah, if you're on the side of I'm giving too much, then you might decide to leave the relationship if you can't get that person to pull their own weight. Now, if they're not pulling their own weight, then that's because they're ignoring their internal, soul saying, hey, listen, you need to bring this up. Hey, Juan, You need to bring this up to an equal balance. They're ignoring that. Some people are super stubborn and they're not going to listen to their higher self. They're going to tune it all out and just do what they want to do. And they want to keep living in this faded reality where they're going to keep getting, dumped or, problems. They're going to get more negative until they finally break out of it. You have to break out of it, and you have to know your own self-worth in order to go to the next level with anyone else. You got to go to the next level with yourself first, right? So this can be a real wake-up call time for people, and that's good. That's good. And if people break up during a Venus retrograde, a lot of times they don't get back together, right? Because it was too imbalanced. Now, again, people get back together during Venus retrogrades. People take their relationships to another level, especially if they're people that are proactive. If they're proactive about healing themselves and working on their own self-worth and realizing their own problems and helping other people, to help, balance the relationship. And if you're one of those people that likes to, work on relationships and you're very proactive, this can be a great time for you. And as long as you're working on your own self-worth issues, and this is a good time for you to examine, hey, do I want a relationship? And if you do want one, make sure that you're working on yourself, your self-worth issues, and you feel like you can love yourself enough to have an equal balanced relationship with another human being. Because if you're feeling scarce from love, you don't have enough self-love, you feel that hole in yourself, you're likely going to take advantage of other people, and not in a mean way, but just you feel scarce, you don't feel loved. So you'll become like that black hole of pulling from other people, right? And we see that in relationships a lot, where it's a big imbalance, where you have one person over here giving too much and one person taking too much. A lot of that has to do with a Neptune aspect between the two, which is karmic. And so you'll have this Neptune aspect, and it's like, the person with the Neptune in the relationship is giving, 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 and the person that has the other planet aspecting their Neptune is kind of taking, right? That can happen. It can be healed, it can be worked on, it can come to light, because Neptune is an unconscious thing. So we can actually bring it to light and talk about it and say, hey, how can we balance this relationship? Another thing a lot of people ask about is when there's aspects with Saturn, right? Because everybody's scared of Saturn, right? They're scared of retrogrades and they're scared of Saturn because Saturn is, the big bad Satan, right? So people see a Saturn aspect in their relationship with another person and they go, oh my God, I have a Saturn aspect with them. Well, actually, that's actually good, because when you have some harsh aspects in your chart, certain ones, right? And Saturn's one of them. That's actually a long-term relationship because it's a karmic relationship, and we learn the most from that person. We grow the most with that person, and so it's a longer-term relationship. You notice how people that have really fiery relationships, it's like everybody thinks, what the hell are they doing together? They're fighting all the time, right? Well, they're probably having really great sex too, because they have tensions, they have squares in their astrology charts that causes them to learn and to grow with each other, right? And they bring the worst out in each other because they're going to grow from that. And that makes for a long-term relationship a lot of times. They're the most attracted to each other for those reasons. So during those 6 weeks from March 5th to April 16th, be aware of what you're thinking, be aware of what's going on in your relationships, because this is going to be a good time for things to improve for you. If you're in a relationship, you can bring it to the next level. If you're by yourself, this is a good time for you to examine. Cat's shaking the whole thing. Stop that. So yeah, it's a good time for you to examine, what you really want and whether you feel worthy enough to make something work right now. And if you don't, then this would be a good time to go ahead and meditate on that and see how you can connect with yourself even better. And you probably got a lot of answers if you've been meditating over this weekend with this lunar eclipse and full moon. This is a great time to get answers. This whole month is great for it. With the solar eclipse, it's actually coming up in Pisces. And Pisces is all about the unconscious. Pisces is like the psychic, the mystic, the dreamer. So yeah, do y'all have any questions so far? Let me see if I have any other notes on here. Yeah. I guess I could mention, you know, I was kind of sticking to love and relationships, but also money. Money is another issue here, finances, because you have Libra and Taurus are both ruled by Venus, right? And Taurus energy is your self-worth, and that's what I keep kind of going back to. But it's also your resources and your money. So if you're during Venus retrograde, you could also be reflecting on money, on your finances and your stability in that area, your Taurus energy or your second house. So that will come to light as well. So you'll be really re-examining, hey, how am I spending my money? Am I taking care of my resources? Am I, you know, doing okay there? So that will come to light as well. But that's not really love, and that's what this talk was supposed to be about. Ah, yeah, you're a Libra, JB. That's cool. So yeah, we have Jupiter in Libra this year. This is a great time to make big changes in your life. Oh, hey, Jody. So you're a Taurus. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are getting aspected. Woo! Yeah, Venus. Woo! It is, it's going to be interesting because we have Jupiter retrograde in Libra, which is relationships, and then we have Venus going into retrograde, relationships, and we also have Mercury going retrograde as well on, I wrote it down, let's see, April 10th. So in the middle of all of that, Mercury is actually going to go retrograde. So it's going to bring up, you know, issues of how we communicate, you know, in relationships. So communication issues will come up. And in fact, I do want to mention that when Venus retrogrades, it's almost like a moon cycle. You know how moon cycles, we have the full moon, we have the new moon. We have Venus retrograde. It's like it culminates, right? So leading up to the middle of the 6-week period from March 5th on to the end of March, it's going to be kind of a culmination going up, right? It's going to be like going into a full moon. And so then once we come out of that, right, once things kind of get really intense, right, and it's like, whoa, all this stuff's going on, and then we're going to come back down into like a new moon type cycle where it's going to be new beginnings. So this actually starts a 19-month cycle. Venus retrogrades about every 19 months, every almost 2 years. Last time it retrograded was in 2015, the summer of 2015. So since that time, you know, you started a new cycle, a way of thinking with relationships, a way of doing relationships a little bit, probably internally. This one's really big because it has Jupiter and Mercury going retrograde as well in Libra, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on with relationships right now. Last September in 2016, we had some crazy aspects with relationships hit really hard. You probably noticed a lot of people were checking out. A lot of people were getting divorced. A lot of people were going through major relationship problems. You know, the end of that purge year. And now we have the awakening year. So people are starting to re-examine, right? Right now with these eclipses, it's starting that, especially at the end of February. We have the solar eclipse. It's going to be like, bam, in your face. Hey, you need to change this. And, you know, this was a good weekend to really figure out what does need to be changed, you know, with this lunar eclipse. Yeah. So you'll have like a lot of new beginnings coming at you come April 16th. April 16th, you know, once that Venus retrograde is over, you're going to be starting a new cycle. Things are going to be different than they are right now, especially if you're in kind of crisis mode or if you're in, you know, a confusion mode. Things will lighten up, you know, things are going to change. But again, when it's retrograde, you know, it can be tough. I just want to warn you, it can be a little tough, but it can be really good. It can be really good. So yeah, that's a little bit about Venus. Yeah, I can't really think about much else to talk about Venus. I think I hit all the points there. Venus is an interesting planet. It's about our admiration, our love, our, you know, our values, our self-worth, you know. And if you're having any negative self-talk, this is a good time to start reevaluating that self-talk. You know, when you have a good way to look at it is, okay, so you know how you always think, probably most people, oh, I want to, I want to treat this person good. I want to be nice to them, right? I want to, make this person feel good. Well, how about you turn that around and you do that to yourself? Because if you can't do that to yourself, you can't really genuinely do it enough to another person. Coming from a good, self-worth, connected type of human being. So I always tell people, hey, look at how you're treating yourself. How are you talking to yourself? And if you're not self-nurturing and being okay with yourself, you're going to have a hard time being okay with other people. So this is a good time to re-examine that, to examine yourself and say, would I say that to somebody else? This is what I went through a long time ago. I worked on my self-talk a long time ago. It helped me tremendously. If I wouldn't say it to somebody else or thinking about another person, I won't do it to myself. So you got to flip it around. If you know anybody that's having self-worth issues, or they're having issues where they don't like themselves, or they don't love themselves, or they feel scarce from love and they're treating other people bad and taking advantage of other people, right? You might want to talk to them about this and how they can help themselves by flipping that around and saying, hey, would I think that about another person? Would I say that to another person? How about I talk to myself like I talk to somebody that I care for? Because if you talk to yourself the way you talk to another person that you love and you care for, you're going to really start loving yourself more, and you're not going to feel empty anymore, because you get that emptiness from turning inwards in anger and turning inwards and feeling like, you're not good enough. And that's where those issues come from, and that causes major relationship problems, because then we feel like the other person should make us feel good about ourselves, and that should never happen. You should feel good about yourself, and then, your relationship will just be more natural, and there'll be a lot less tension and expectations, and then letting down and fighting and all of that. So, yeah. Any questions? Anything y'all have questions about astrologically or in regards to relationships? I have degrees in psychology, communication. I have most of a master's degree in marriage counseling as well, but I never finished that because I was bored and wanted to go back to astrology instead of regular marriage counseling. So, yeah, I'm also into tantric yoga, and I plan on putting some relationship stuff out there eventually. I mainly just do astrology and tarot for people right now, but I'd like to get more involved with people in relationships. I think that would be helpful for people. Yeah. So I guess I'll sign off unless anybody has anything to say or any questions or anything. I'll take some questions now. Are y'all watching the Grammys? You can tell I'm not, right? Yeah, I guess as we get older, our music taste sticks to the back, when we were younger. Are you watching the Grammys, Juan? You're not either, JP? Yeah, I don't care so much about the Grammys. I'd rather go see a local show. Yeah, so Venus, guys, you should know where Venus is in your chart. Actually, I could tell you the degrees really quick on what's going on, because if you have any... Yeah, you either? Yeah, I don't know, Carol. I would have to give you a reading for that. Yeah. Let's see. So, March 5th, we have Venus retrograde at 13 degrees Aries. So, if any of you have anything at 13 degrees Aries, that Venus retrograde is really, really going to be intense for you. 13 degrees Aries, anything around, that, 10 to 16 degrees Aries is going to be, pretty intense for those people, especially. Yeah. I know most people on here probably don't know how to look at their charts, unless you took my webinar the other night where I taught you how to do that. So, yeah. Anyways, it was fun, y'all. Thanks for joining me. I guess I will head off, and remember we do pick a card later tonight at midnight. I will post it, and tomorrow night on Monday night we will talk about your reveal, your guidance for the week for your tarot readings. And so make sure you pick a card. All right. Thanks for joining, y'all. Have a good night, and I'll see y'all soon. Thank you. Bye for now.